Hey guys, welcome back. It's Friday. You're sitting on the spotlight. Hashtag MagnaOnAir Digital Network, MagnaSearchGroup.tv. It's Rory McMillan, Jason Berard. We have a special guest with us in the studio today, Drew Betts. Drew Betts, he's a musician, business expert, online tutorials guru, YouTube enthusiast.
DJ.
He's everything.
Vespers.
We're excited to have him here. Drew Betts, welcome to the studio. Welcome to the show.
Awesome. Rory, Jason, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you, I've got a little bit of an understanding of your story, but how have you sort of leveraged, I know that you started in music, but let's go back. When did you start playing music and sort of how did that transpire into where you are now?
Yeah, so my story starts out a lot very similar to a lot of DJs that you see, and it's kind of like the vomit cliche bio. I started playing piano when I was 5, kind of thing, but I'll go there because it's actually true. So I started playing classical piano when I was about old enough to hop on the bench and did that. And then when I progressed into junior high and band class came around, I picked up the saxophone and I really, really got into the more funk kind of jazz vibes and tore that up for a little while. Nice. And then around the year 1997 or so, 96, 97, when the rave scene, and I call it the rave scene because that's what it was then. It was like dirty underground, break into a warehouse, party till police break it up.
Cool.
That scene came onto the West Coast. And I got really into electronic music because it brought electronic music with it over from the UK.
Sure.
And so I got really into listening to it, going out to shows, and shortly thereafter started DJing. And once I started DJing, I really had the bug and wanted to get back into music again because I kind of let the saxophone and everything go.
Yeah.
And I started writing my own music. And then after a few years of writing music, I realized that I could combine the saxophone back into what I do. And now I play saxophone live over top of electronic bass music that I'm primarily producing myself.
Cool. And then so you bring it back in. Now you've tied it all in together. You do that for a few years, but now where has that sort of propelled you in and you've kind of just followed your passions? But so where has that led you to where you are now? Totally.
Yeah. So I when I was getting started, electronic music was very technical, and it's still very technical. The software is extremely complex. It looks like something you'd use to launch a space shuttle.
Yeah.
And when I was learning, there were very few resources out there. I was limited to maybe a couple of specialty magazines, reading the manual, and trying to get somebody desperately to teach me what they knew. And that wasn't a very effective way of learning. And so as I started to grind my way to learning the ropes, if you will, I started to see, well, is there a way that I can make this easier for other people? And I naturally, when I learn something new, I get pretty amped about it. And my first instinct is to share it. So as soon as I saw YouTube, I was compelled to start building tutorial videos. I never ever thought that it would become a business. I was just doing it for fun. And because I really enjoyed just showing cool creative techniques that I'd figured out.
Yeah.
And I started publishing tutorials on my YouTube channel. And after a few years of that, I realized I was one of the first movers on YouTube doing that. I wasn't the first, but I was definitely in the first group of people doing electronic music tutorials. And I realized that my YouTube tutorial channel had grown to like 25,000 subscribers. And then my business side, because I did a business degree at UVic, then my entrepreneurial side kicked in and said, whoa, any business that has 25,000 people that are regularly walking into the store and looking at what you have there is a good business. And it's only growing from there. I was growing at like 1,000 people a month. So that's when I decided, okay, maybe I can switch and make this my career because I see that I have a potential customer base. So I started to do extensive online courses, live streaming webinars, downloadable production tools, and created the business as it exists today. So that's when my site, Vespers.ca, came on stream. And that site was branded around me as a musician and as a trainer. And we did online streaming videos. We did live webinars where students can interact with me from around the world. And then downloadable production templates where they can grab sounds, kick drums, bass hits, synthesizer patches, and stuff like that. And then from there, the next evolution, which is where we're at right now, is Warp Academy. And Warp Academy is the next evolution of the Vespers.ca site. Vespers.ca was primarily focused on myself as an individual brand, whereas Warp Academy is a banner, a full-blown academy under which many trainers operate. So we started recruiting experts, Ableton Live certified trainers, industry experts in synthesis, mixing, mastering, sound design, and created Warp Academy, which is effectively an online portal where students can interact with them and take training from them.
And is it a free network? Is it sort of like a freemium service, or how does it sort of work? Like, say I wanted to learn from Warp Academy, how does it sort of work in that regards?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So at our core, the entire business model was based on free content. That's how it started. So the YouTube channel has always had approximately 1 video per week published on it. That's a free, full-fledged tutorial, usually anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes of a solid concept. And we continue doing that and will continue doing that for the foreseeable future. Sure. We always believe in providing high-quality free content that anybody in the world can interact with.
Yeah.
And then in bringing our trainers on, we realized, wow, they have something to offer that creates a wonderful alternative to going to a college or a university. And we have paid content as well for somebody who wants to delve deeper into a subject. So for somebody who really wants to do like 4 weeks or 8 weeks on a deep subject like end-to-end DJing or mixing and mastering or sound design, that's a very extensive subject. And we offer those as paid courses as well. So there's kind of everything in between.
Interesting. And so at what point, yeah, I know that you said the business mind kicked in, you're on YouTube, you've got all these subscribers. Like, at what point did you, like, I know that not the number, but were you able to just leverage YouTube in general for potential money? Like, is that a thing at YouTube? Like, do you hit a certain point of users or subscribers where YouTube goes, okay, you're now a sponsored, I'm not sure how it works, so I'm curious.
Sure. Yeah, so there are people out there who are making a substantial amount of income purely on YouTube with no additional site. Yeah. And the primary way you'll do that is by enabling advertising on your videos.
Yeah.
Now, I could do that, but I always opted not to because I didn't want advertising on my channel. I wanted to be able to drive traffic from YouTube back to my own site.
Yeah.
So I viewed YouTube more as it's one of the world's largest search engines. It's one of the world's largest trafficked websites. There are millions of people surfing around on it every single day searching for things. Yeah. So I have videos up there that they find. And what my strategy is, and my hope, and it's been effective, is that they see something that I've done, they say, wow, that's really great. And then I give them a way to come back to my website. So let's say, for example, I use a brand new synthesizer plugin to build a new bass patch, a crazy bass sound. Yeah. And then I say, I show you step by step in this video how to do it, but if you want to actually just grab that and see how I made it, you can come back to the site, they land on our blog, and they can email submit for a download. And so YouTube has been a very, very effective tool at building our own community back on our site. And that's really where we have the full universe. Because if somebody finds one of our videos on YouTube, they just see one of our videos, but they don't see the other 150 videos we published in the last couple of years. So they can come back to our site and navigate through that on our blog and our tutorials, see our courses, and really interact with the larger community back at the site.
And did you have to originally promote that, or was it just put a video up on YouTube, then traction started to come in, and then you started to give them more free content?
Yeah, great question, Rory. I never did YouTube advertising. I think that it was one of those cases where I was in an emerging market at the right time. Mm-hmm. I think that it's become more competitive now. And if I was an entrant into the market on YouTube now, I would probably use YouTube promoted videos, which is their paid advertising strategy. Yeah. And in fact, that is something that we are exploring now with Warp Academy, but we haven't really had to do it because I got into YouTube when I was only in a group size of a handful that was doing tutorials. And I had been trained to do extremely high quality content. So that was always a differentiating factor. I, right from the get-go, invested into actually the very similar to the mics that you guys are using, professional video equipment. I dropped thousands and thousands of dollars on business grade equipment. Yeah. And I also made sure that I was articulating myself well and showing people the process succinctly. And there's a lot of content on YouTube that is very rambly, very random, less adequately produced. And so my stuff just naturally stood out. I'm also a terrible perfectionist, so I produce content usually a little slower than people, but the stuff that I do put out is quality.
Yeah.
And that did a lot for the videos, because when somebody saw it, they would share that video.
Yeah.
And somebody else evangelizing and sharing that video for me always attracted more people, more backlinks, more subscribers, more views. I had blogs that were republishing my videos, and
Excellent.
that did a lot for us. And that was part of a strategy that was one of our few intentional strategies. A lot of the stuff we did was kind of by luck and by accident, but we always did look at building ourselves as authority bloggers and doing content marketing, publishing high quality content that naturally people would want to share, and it would become semi-viral. I'm not going to say as viral as like, a kid playing a piano on his head, while his dog was balancing on his feet, not stuff like that. But viral within our industry is like, 200,000-300,000 views on a video, which is some of our better videos have done that.
And so it sounds like, it sounds like you're taking advantage of the automated flow of
video
users
production
and where people go from, site to site, end up back on yours. So the question and the bells are ringing, like, you must be in the passive income game then online, right? Like you and your company must be earning passive income.
We have a balance of both.
Okay.
So there's a life cycle when it comes to educational content that's digital education. At the beginning, you get a big bump because it's fresh, and then you go into passive income mode and it becomes a trickle. And then we have a pricing model that involves discounting content as it gets older and bundling content together. So there is a life cycle to the content, and eventually your content becomes obsolete. So you're not, it's not like you're
not putting out there and you're just like, we got it.
Yeah, it's not like a blue chip stock or something like investing in Apple where you're just going to get dividends for years and years and years and years. But it is kind of a hybrid between a larger bump of income now and then a trickle of income later, and then building up your inventory of content that you have doing that.
So for an aspiring entrepreneur out there, now that you've kind of seen both sides of the online world, the real world, active income, passive income,
music,
which do you advise someone to go after?
I think that there's a natural progression of being an entrepreneur that involves at the beginning trading your time for money.
100%.
Which is the least amount of leverage, if you will. It's like being in a car that's a manual transmission and you're in first gear. You can be working really hard, but you're getting a certain level of income.
Yeah.
But eventually, I think as you have money to invest, and as by raising your income, you purchase yourself some free time, you can really work on the strategy that will give you longer term income products. And a great book for that is Tim Ferriss, The 4-Hour Workweek, which was one of the pieces of inspiration for this business model. Yeah. Not the only piece of inspiration, but definitely one of the eye openers was The 4-Hour Workweek, where he talks a lot about online business. And I think that it's significantly easy to build that residual income using an e-commerce based business, because you can launch products so quickly, you can innovate so quickly. And so for us, there was that transition where we definitely launch new products fairly frequently, and we're kind of in a hybrid right now of a good chunk of our income is residual from some of the great products that our trainers have built.
Excellent. And a question for our audience here, Drew, is you've done a lot of stuff. You've run a lot of businesses right now. It's not easy. Getting the traction that you've done isn't easy. We know that. The views that you have is just not easy. It's a grind, it's a push, it's a shove. What are some of the sacrifices that you've had to make to get where you are today?
Sure. Well, I wholeheartedly agree with you, Rory, that it is. I think anybody getting into starting their own business, especially a business like this, if it's not something that they are 100% passionate about, and sometimes it's difficult to know what your passion is, then a lot of times those people burn out, because it's been an incredible journey. And the only thing that has fueled me through is the fact that it has been my passion. But as far as some of the sacrifices, I think that you definitely have to choose between certain things. Sometimes those sacrifices have been social time with friends and family. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they've been certain relationships. Sometimes it's been sacrificing travel and trips and things like that I'd like to go on, or things that I'd like to buy, where instead it's more prudent for me to invest into my business or stay here in my studio and stay focused. Yeah. So for me, a lot of it has been working really, really hard, long hours, disciplined schedules, and making sure that my focus is on my business goals until the business is healthy and thriving. And right now we're in a phase where we're healthy and thriving. So I'm having to make less of those sacrifices now, and I'm able to reintroduce some of those elements to my life. But definitely in the first few years, maybe 5 years or so of running a business, you definitely need to make it the pinnacle if you want it to really thrive.
I think it's such an interesting point, right? Because like a lot of successful people will tell you like nothing comes without sacrifice. And I think a lot of people look at entrepreneurship when they're not in the game, and they're fearful of what it might take, or they just don't have what it takes to build something special, right? But you hit the nail on the head there. I think passion is one of the things that will bring people forward.
Perseverance.
A lot of people, like you just read almost every successful book, or anyone that's actually running a business, it's a very consistent across the board, right? You need hard work.
Focus.
Focus.
Ambition.
You need sacrifice. Yeah, I completely see where that's coming
from. So now
from.
that your business is thriving and now that your business is growing, Drew, which is great, I'm really happy for you. That's excellent.
Thank you.
What do you look for, Drew? In obviously now you're growing, you're hiring, money's coming, a lot of money's coming into your business, I'm assuming. What would you look for if you look to scale your business? What do you look for in hiring great people?
Sure. Yeah, I've had the opportunity to work with a fair amount of people in the different companies that I've run. And I'm not an expert at recruiting, but I've definitely learned a few things that have helped me to align with the right people. So one of the things that I look for is somebody who is really clear on what their values are and can articulate that to me. Because one of the things that I found has created the best match for me and then other people that I work with in the business is an alignment of our core values. So things like integrity and discipline and punctuality and creativity and things like that. Balance is another one. I think I really enjoy working with somebody who's balanced, for example, who has a health and fitness routine, who looks after themselves nutritionally as well, because that stuff translates into the workplace.
Oh yeah.
100%.
So I've definitely found that as one of the core things is looking for somebody who is really, really clear on what their values are and can articulate that. And so I can see if those are in alignment with the type of person that I'm looking for. I also really, really look for somebody who is willing to be compensated based on their results, not the amount of time that they put in. Because we are a entrepreneurial company.
Love it.
And we're only compensated when we produce results. And I really like working with people who are results oriented like that. Somebody who, like, we have what's called you guys would probably be familiar with this, a results only work environment. We don't dictate to our staff where they work or when they work. We have people that work with us from around the world in different time zones. And I am the opposite of a micromanager. I'm extremely hands off. So all we do is we give somebody a set of objectives and milestones. It's up to them how they achieve those, when they do their work, where they do their work, what tools they use. And really how I evaluate them is what they produce at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So an example of that is if we recruit a new trainer who's working with us to do a course on sound design for dubstep, for example. It doesn't matter to me if they do their work from 9 to 5 or 3 to 6 in the morning. It doesn't matter to me if they're in London, UK or Michigan. It doesn't matter to me, what other people they work with. What matters to me at the end of the day is that they're producing high quality videos that are delivered on time, that our community is going to enjoy, and also that we have a good working relationship and I enjoy working with that person.
I think that's where the future structure of a lot of organizations are going, because we're now at a time where you can do work for pretty much almost every industry from your home, from your office, from anywhere in the world, because we are so connected and so virtual. So I think your business model is spot on with your growth and how you're going to grow your company going forward. And I think we're just going to see it more and more and more. So like if you're out there watching the show, like just know that you got to be the ones that's focused on the results and the market doesn't care about the effort. The market doesn't care
about the time,
how hard you tried, right? Like they only care about the results. And if you start that within an organization, then the market's going to see that, ultimately in the end. Yeah.
So what's next for Drew Betts? What's next? What's on the agenda next? You've got a lot going on. Your businesses are thriving. What's next?
Great. Yeah. So it reminds me of one of the sacrifices to be able to create this business was working on my own music largely on the back burner for the first couple of years. Whereas now I'm in a position where I'm in a strategic role with the company and I'm providing guidance for the team, but I'm not doing the day-to-day work. And that has freed me up to be able to reintroduce working on some of my own music and taking on some new creative projects. So one of the things that I'm doing over the next year is working on a piece of original material every month with the intention of having a full new live set as a musician of original material ready for next summer. And also getting into doing music videos that will accompany each one of those pieces of music, because when I play live, I also have the ability to stream video from my computer up onto large projection screens. So we're going to be getting into building music videos for each one of these productions.
Cool.
And then I'm going to tie that whole project back to my teaching model, and I'm going to convert all of my music into a teaching tool. And that's really the next step for me. Is I think that one of the best ways to learn about how somebody like myself writes music is to see inside the actual project file. And I've never seen another producer do that, and really open up the source code, if you will, of the software and see how everything was written. And so what I'm going to do is, as I complete these pieces of music, I'm going to turn each song into a teaching tool and expose that source code of the project file and show exactly how every sound was created, and go track by track by track. They can open up the entire project and be hosting regular live streaming webinars where I can interact with students and they can ask me questions once they have a chance to go through those project files. So it's a huge project over the next year that involves me writing original music, a new track every month, doing a music video, building a whole new original DJ set for next summer, and also converting each one of those songs into high-level teaching tools.
Wow.
Too cool. And then tying it all back in, right? Once again, finding the passion, leveraging it, and turning it into a profitable business where it can be nothing but your own passion. Right before we end, I just wanted to ask you, I know that you alluded to The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. Do you have 2 other books that you've read that you would recommend to the...
100%.
Okay, what do you got? What do you got?
So my favorite marketing author is Seth Godin.
Okay.
And he wrote a book called Tribes. That is about creating a community of evangelists around your business.
Okay.
And it is absolutely hands down incredible. Wow. I've read it probably 5 times now. Read everything else from Seth Godin as well. The Purple Cow, All Marketers Are Liars.
Yeah, I read that one.
Because Seth Godin was, but I've never heard of the Tribes.
Yeah. That's a very interesting book. That's a very interesting book.
But Tribes, read that one first if you're looking at creating a community or a business that has customers, and who isn't doing that these days. So it's a book about how to relate to and lead a tribe versus lead a business that has customers.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And it was hugely inspiring for me. Seth Godin's blog is my homepage. It loads every time I load Google Chrome.
Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome.
A second book I would recommend for those who are interested in using social media is by Gary Vaynerchuk, and it's called Crush It. So Gary Vaynerchuk, the creator of Wine Library TV.
I thought we were doing Jab Jab Hook or the other one. Crush It.
No doubt. I really like Gary Vaynerchuk as an author. He was one of the inspirations for my business model as well. So really Seth Godin, Tribes, The 4-Hour Workweek, and Crush It from Gary Vaynerchuk would be my top 3 picks.
I got one other question for you, Drew, before we end the show here is, how important is it as a business owner, or entrepreneur, to surround yourself with the right like-minded people? How important is it? And where do you go to look for your mentorship?
Sure. It's critical. Absolutely critical. I would rather surround myself with no one at all than surround myself with the wrong people. And how I started this business was completely on my own, because I'd had a series of bad experiences with partners and people that I'd recruited. And I said, until I can get better at recruiting the right people and really find that alignment, I would rather do it on my own. But now I've been able to align with some fantastic people.
Awesome.
And it's allowed me to leverage myself and allowed the business to grow to the extent that it has today. So it really comes back to being able to be good at analyzing and recruiting people, and that's where something that you guys are fantastic at that. So it's wonderful with what you're doing.
Thanks. Yeah, awesome. Absolutely. So I think that's the big thing that people need to know, is that you can follow your passion, you can leverage things that you're good at, your skill set, and you can find ways to turn it into a profitable business. And I think that's sort of what you've communicated very effectively. So I want to thank you so much for joining us on the show. It's been a blast.
Awesome.
Where can people find you again? Vespers.ca.
And warpacademy.com.
Warpacademy.com. Check out Vespers on YouTube. Tons of tutorial videos. And while you're at it, check out the Big Game Hunters. Check out Magna on Air, MagnaSearchGroup.tv. And we're coming to you next week.